We'll just go ahead and jump right into it. I got Alabama winning the SEC West. I know pretty much everyone's picked them, but it's for good reason. At quarterback now, they have Tua. We only saw half of him playing against Georgia. He played sparsely throughout the year, but came in into the national championship game, performed pretty well, and it was pretty clear that he was a lot better than Jalen Hurts, and he's a playmaker. He doesn't play conservative, and I think that's going to really benefit their offense this year. It's going to make them really lethal. Auburn's probably the next best team in the West. It's going to be hard for them to win it, mainly because in the back end of the year they have to play at Georgia, at Alabama. That's going to be brutal, but last year they had 2 losses, and it was kind of the same scenario. So if they can beat both Georgia and Alabama, get to at the SEC championship game in Atlanta, they could still possibly make the playoffs. And then Mississippi State, they're kind of the dark horse. Problem with them is they've never won the West, and they have to play in Tuscaloosa. So I just don't see it happening. And in the East, there's really nobody at Georgia's level. Georgia should win the East with ease. South Carolina is probably the only team that has an outside chance. They do actually have their schedule sets up pretty nicely, and they do draw Georgia in or at home. So we'll see how that plays out, but I think that Georgia should relatively cruise to the SEC championship game. So I got Alabama and Georgia in Atlanta, and I think that Alabama wins the SEC championship game. I think that it'll probably be a close game like it was last year, maybe not as epic as that national title game, but I do think Alabama's going to win the SEC championship game. Yeah, now the Big Ten. I think Wisconsin's the obvious pick in the Big Ten West. Returning 10 offensive starters, Alex Hornibrook at quarterback, Jonathan Taylor at running back, a potential Heisman winner, and they also bring back their entire offensive line. I mean, they're gonna be really hard to stop offensively. Iowa does have a shot to win the Big Ten West. They need to beat Wisconsin head-to-head, obviously, but the rest of their schedule is a joke, and they can win that. But, I mean, it is safe to say that Wisconsin is the easy pick. And then the big question is the Big Ten East, because you got 4 teams, well, at least 3 proven solid teams. And then you got, Michigan State, that 4th team that a lot of people think are going to do a complete, 180, but I'm not buying Penn State personally. I don't think Trace McSorley is capable of carrying his team, because I feel like that's what he's going to have to do to a certain extent this year. Barkley gone, Joe Moorhead gone, their offensive coordinator, he's at Mississippi State now. And they lose a lot of players on that defensive side of the ball, so they're going to be an offensive-heavy team this year. I don't think they can lean on him. I don't think he's capable. And then Michigan's going to be good this year. As long as Shea Patterson proves to be the guy we think he is, then Michigan may have an offensive pulse. Harbaugh may have found a quarterback that he can actually do things with, because in the past it's been really hard to watch. And then I have Ohio State winning the Big Ten East. I think that Dwayne Haskins replacing J.T. Barrett is going to give them a little bit of a vertical downfield threat, and is going to complement J.K. Dobbins' run game, and their offense is going to start clicking. So I got Wisconsin and Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game. Probably be a little bit similar to the game last year. It may even actually be closer, but the reason why I'm picking Ohio State to win is I give a slight edge to them on the defensive side of the ball. I think their defense is just a little bit better than Wisconsin. So yeah, the Pac-12 now. So in the Pac-12 North, it was really hard for me to pick between Washington and Stanford. I think both of them are really good. Both well coached, Chris Peterson and David Shaw. And they return some key players. Washington with Jake Browning, Stanford with Bryce Love, who is, I think, the favorite to win the Heisman right now. Maybe Jonathan Taylor from Wisconsin. But, for me, the difference was just simply that Stanford has to travel and play at Washington. I do think Washington's the better team, but they have to play on the road for that game, and I think that may be the difference on that side of the division. And then in the Pac-12 South, USC is the favorite, but Arizona and Utah both have a legit shot, in my opinion. I know you'd say, why Arizona? I think the Khalil Tate kid's going to be really good. I don't think Arizona's going to win the conference, but they're my surprise team, or that's out of the division, but they're my surprise team in the Pac-12 South. But with USC, I'm just super excited about JT Daniels and that offense. Also, the 5-star receiver that came with him from his high school, Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think that once they get comfortable, they're going to be nasty. I really like JT Daniels, and I think he's going to be an elite player. And he may actually be Pac-12 Freshman of the Year. I actually would probably count on that. I have the Washington Huskies winning the Pac-12 championship. I keep saying a lot of these championship games are going to be close, but I think if they play USC, it'll be another close game. I like Washington though because I think they have the better defense. Yeah, so now the ACC, the Atlantic side is like, who cares? I mean, Clemson is going to win it. There's not a single other team on that side of the division that even has a chance. So Clemson's pretty much a virtual lock to win the ACC. There's not a single team really, not only in the Atlantic, but in the Coastal that has any kind of opportunity to even compete with Clemson, in my opinion. I think that they are going to just steamroll the conference this year. So, I mean, in the Coastal Division, Miami's the go-to pick, but they really weren't that good last year. They won a lot of close games. They didn't really dominate any of the opponents they played, besides the Notre Dame game. But most of the other ACC foes were close, hard-fought wins. And then obviously they got embarrassed last year in the ACC championship game. I think Miami will get there again. I don't necessarily think they'll be as good as they were last year, but they're going to get embarrassed by Clemson when they play them in the ACC championship game again. So, so like I said, my ACC championship game is Clemson and Miami, and I think that Clemson is going to beat them about as bad as they did last year. So yeah, the Big 12. I think this is the most wide open conference in all of college football this year in the Power 5. Oklahoma and Texas, to me, are your obvious front runners. But I wouldn't be surprised at all to see a team like TCU or West Virginia slip their way in somehow. It's possible, especially with Will Grier at the helm. People think he could be a potential Heisman winner. If he plays up to his level and West Virginia catches some sort of vibe, then you never know. They could possibly win the Big 12. But I think Kyler Murray will be, or at least put respectable numbers up at Oklahoma. I don't think he's going to be a Baker Mayfield type guy, but you don't really get many of those anyway. So Oklahoma will definitely be a good team. I think they have the best all-around talent as well, but I think that they're actually going to play Texas in the Big 12 championship game. Yeah, and just because I have Texas in there, I don't think they're going to have some spectacular season where they go 11-1 and they're on the cusp of making the playoff. I just think that mainly the Big 12 is going to really beat itself up. It's going to be, I think, the one conference that gets left at the college football playoff. So I have Oklahoma and Texas playing in a rematch in the Big 12 championship game, and I think Texas wins the Big 12 championship game in Tom Herman's second year. Hit the subscribe button if you want to follow along this season, and I'll see you guys in the next video.